Triton 9 is a world defined by a singular, violent contradiction. The crushing, absolute zero of the Hadal Abyss meets the screaming 400-degree fury of the volcanic trenches. We call these areas the Hell Gates. Here, the crust of the moon is thin, and the magma of the core bleeds into the sea through thousands of geothermal vents. This is the domain of the vent vipers. They are not mere fish. They are biological heat conductors, serpent-like leviathans that can reach lengths of over 100 feet. Their scales are composed of organic obsidian, and they possess a specialized organ that allows them to store and project superheated steam. They don't need to bite you. They simply coil around a vessel and vent their internal heat, raising the temperature of a titanium hull to the boiling point in seconds. We found the early research pods filled with nothing but steam and the scorched remains of crews who were literally cooked alive inside their own sanctuary. Traditional weapons are useless in the gates. Torpedoes cook off in the tubes. Lasers are scattered by the constant shroud of volcanic ash and bubbling minerals. To fight a monster made of fire and water, humanity had to stop fearing the heat. We had to embrace the forge. We are the 15th Volcanic Strike Squad. The Magma-Marines. We wear the Prometheus-class thermal suits. These aren't just armor, they are walking heat siphons. Our suits are designed to absorb the ambient thermal energy of the vents, cooling our internal cockpits while funneling that massive energy into our primary weapons, the heat blades. These are 10-foot heavy-duty claymores that vibrate at ultrasonic speeds, their edges heated to the point of liquefaction. We don't just fight the Vipers, we use their own home to sharpen our steel. I am Commander Drake. My suit's thermal intake is currently at 98%. The water around me is boiling. And the hunt is just beginning. The drop into the Cauldron Trench was a vertical plunge into a chaotic wall of black smoke and orange light. The moment my boots hit the igneous rock of the sea floor, the thermal alarms in my HUD began to scream. The ambient temperature was 350 degrees Celsius. Any normal human would have been vaporized in a millisecond. Intakes open. Feed the blades. I ordered, my voice echoing through the haptic comms. Marine 2, Sarah. Intakes at maximum. The pressure is holding, Drake. But I've got multiple thermal spikes on the sonar. They're in the chimneys. Marine 3, Jax, I see them. They're fast. Moving like smoke in the water. The Vipers didn't wait for an invitation. They erupted from the black smoke vents like literal demons. A 70-foot serpent, its obsidian scales shimmering with reflected lava light, lunged at Jax. It didn't lead with its teeth, it spiraled around his suit, its throat sac glowing a terrifying brilliant white. Jax. He's going to vent. Eject the heat sinks. I watched as the Viper's throat expanded. A massive jet of superheated, pressurized steam erupted from the creature's pores, hitting Jax's suit with the force of a high-pressure jet. The water around him instantly turned into a chaotic cloud of bubbles. Jax's suit groaned, the matte red plating turning a glowing cherry pink as it struggled to process the sudden influx of energy. I'm taking the load. Jax grunted. Blades, active. Jax's heat blade flared to life, a blinding orange light cutting through the bubbles. He didn't just slash, he pivoted, using the Viper's own coiling movement against it. The molten edge of the blade bit into the obsidian scales. In the high-pressure abyss, the friction was immense. The blade carved through the Serpent's midsection, black ichor boiling into steam the moment it touched the water. The Viper shrieked, a low-pitched guttural vibration that shook the trench floor, and disintegrated into two twitching halves. Don't let them cluster. Use the chimneys for cover. I shouted. I turned just in time to see two Vipers flanking me from the left. They were moving with a liquid, predatory grace, their eyes glowing like dying coals. I didn't retreat. I charged. I fired my suit's thrusters, a violent burst of pressurized water that sent me skidding across the lava rock. I swung my heat blade in a wide horizontal arc. The blade left a trail of orange light in the dark water. The first Viper tried to dive, but I caught its tail, the molten steel slicing through the bone-hard obsidian like a hot wire through wax. The second Viper slammed into my chest, its massive weight pinning me against a geothermal chimney. I felt the heat rising. My HUD flashed a warning, internal temperature rising. Cockpit at 45 degrees. The creature wrapped its long, powerful body around my torso, its throat sac beginning to pulse. It was trying to cook me. You want my heat? I growled, my hands gripping the creature's slick, hot neck. Take the whole damn furnace. I engaged the core vent sequence. Instead of absorbing the heat, I reversed the flow. The massive energy stored in my suit's capacitors was dumped directly into the frontal plating. My armor turned white-hot. The Viper, which thrived in high temperatures but had never encountered the concentrated fury of a fusion core dump, let out a piercing shriek. Its skin began to bubble and crack. I grabbed its lower jaw and drove my heat blade upward, through the roof of its mouth and into its brain. The serpent went limp, its body sliding off me as it drifted into the lava river below. Drake. The mother Viper is surfacing. She's targeting the siphon station. Sarah's voice was frantic. I looked up toward the ledge where our primary geothermal refinery sat. A shadow was rising from the deepest vent that made the other Vipers look like earthworms. The mother Viper was a titan, 300 feet of obsidian armored plates and hundreds of glowing heat pores. She wasn't just venting steam, she was channeling the raw magma of the vent. She opened her mouth, and a beam of concentrated, molten energy struck the refinery's support struts. We can't hit her from here. We need a localized surge. Jax yelled. Sarah, Jax, link your capacitors to my suit. I'm going to use the main vent as a railgun. The two Marines didn't hesitate. They slammed their gauntlets into the docking ports of my suit. I felt a massive surge of power, 3 fusion cores and the ambient heat of the entire trench flowing into my primary capacitor. My HUD turned blood red. Danger, structural integrity critical. I sprinted toward the largest geothermal chimney, a towering black pillar of rock that was exhaling a constant stream of 500-degree water. I jammed my heat blade into the vent, using the blade as a conductor. Mother of all Vipers. I panted, the sweat stinging my eyes inside the helmet. Breathe this. I triggered this siphon burst. The energy didn't come from my suit, it came from the planet itself. My suit acted as a bridge, channeling the raw, unbridled power of Triton 9's volcanic core through my heat blade and into the water. A massive, cylindrical shockwave of superheated plasma and steam erupted from the vent, a spear of orange fire that traveled through the abyss at supersonic speeds. The beam struck the mother Viper dead center. The explosion was a blinding white sun at the bottom of the ocean. For a second, the entire trench was illuminated, revealing every jagged rock and every terrified serpent. The mother Viper didn't just die, she was vaporized. Her obsidian plates were shattered into a million fragments, and her internal magma core was neutralized by the sheer force of the pulse. The shockwave cleared the trench of smoke and ash for kilometers. The hundreds of smaller Vipers, sensing the absolute destruction of their queen and the terrifying power of the metal men, retreated into the deepest, darkest crevices of the core cracks. They fled the heat. They fled the light. The cauldron trench went silent. The only sound was the rhythmic clank hiss of our suits as the cooling systems fought to stabilize our temperatures. The orange lava continued to flow, but the malice was gone. I fell to my knees, my suit's power at 1%. The red glow of the heat blade faded to a dull, smoking gray. I pulled the manual release from my visor and for the first time I saw the trench with my own eyes. The water was clear, the silt settled. The refinery above was still standing, its lights flickering back to a steady, confident blue. Drake? You still breathing in there? Jax asked, his voice sounding small in the vast quiet. I'm a little overcooked, I rasped, wiping the sweat from my forehead. But I'm still standing. The siphon station is secure, Sarah reported. The Vipers are gone. They won't be coming back to this vent for a long time. I looked at the charred remains of the Leviathan drifting in the current. Triton 9 had tried to boil us. It had tried to use the very lifeblood of the planet to erase our presence. But it had forgotten who we are. Humanity has proven the ultimate truth of the abyssal conquest. You can live in the fire. You can rule the boiling deep. You can turn the water into a weapon. But we are the ones who built the forge. We are the ones who sharpen the steel in the flame. We don't just survive the heat. We are the ones who make it burn. The mother is ash. The gates are held. The trench is ours. The mission is over. We're going back to the airlock. And someone please turn on the air conditioning. I've had enough of the heat.